This is part 2 on the Durafly Hyperbipe from Hobby King. This is the second video where I will show you the steps to assemble this plane. Now we've got everything on the bench. Everything's nice and laid out. Let's see what the instructions say. So, first part is to glue the lower wing onto the fuselage and then glue the wing supports. Third step is to glue the upper wing. So I will do that right now. I'm not going to show you exactly how it's done because it's fairly straightforward. So just bear with me. Alright, for this build I'll be using two different types of glue. I'll be using foam safe CA with a kicker. And I'll also be using this ooey gooey stuff. It's quick drawing. It actually came with some other Hobby King planes. I think this one came from the Spitfire. It's I like to use it to glue lots of surfaces together. Now when I'm going to be gluing smaller surfaces, I'm going to be using the foam safe stuff. So as you can see, the lower wing has been installed. I only used this glue, this quick drying glue. It seems to be really effective. Now for the wing struts, I'm going to be using the CA with the kicker. Note that the wing struts go forward. They go forward, and the ones with the notch go on top because that matches with the upper wing, which has a notch in here. So let's put that together. This literally took 2 minutes to glue the lower wing. So let's get on to that. Just a minor detail. The wing supports come labeled as a right and left, which is a really nice touch. So I'll have that in mind when putting them on. Alright, the struts have been glued. I used regular CA and kicker to glue the struts. They're strong. And be careful, this is the left side. You could see the L. Let me focus on that right there. And on the right side, we've got the R. Now the next step is to glue the upper wing here and onto the struts. Alrighty, the upper wing has been glued using foam safe CA. And it's pretty straightforward, just to line it and make sure the struts are going forward. Also, little detail here, the struts are reinforced with what seems to be a little carbon fiber rod, which is a nice touch. Alright, let's keep going. The next step in the process is to glue the horizontal stabilizer. Alright, there we go. That's the horizontal stabilizer. I'll probably be using this gooey stuff for that process, making sure that the same distance between the wing and the horizontal stabilizer. The next step is to put this little notch right there. It's right there here in the bag. I'll be doing that. Following step is to insert the rudder into the hinges, ensuring that there's a millimeter between rudder and fuselage. Following step is to install the landing gear, which is it just snaps right in. So let's do that right now. The tail has been, the horizontal stabilizer has been installed using this thick glue. Word of advice: put the cap back on. Otherwise, since it's air activated, the stuff that's near the tip will kind of dry out. So between uses, remember to put the cap back on. So I used that stuff in between to sandwich it, and alignment isn't that much of an issue since it has notches on the inside and it'll guide it straight through. So let's put that little thing here in the back. To glue this little piece into here, I'll be using CA. What I'll do is I will spray kicker on the top surface and on the bottom, and I'll put CA here on the bottom part and on this part and just squeeze it right in. Alright, next step is to install the rudder. It's a pretty big rudder, by the way. Right now it's dry fit in there. I just squeezed it in, made sure it was in there tight. It's not glued yet. So what I will do is I will take it out a bit, apply a bit of CA in there, squeeze it in, and let it dry for a couple seconds. Right, now that the rudder has been glued in place, let's install the landing gear. So according to the instructions, you remove this plastic tab. There we go. We install the landing gear. Okay, landing gear installed. And let's put this tab back on. Well, I guess that does it. Landing gear installed. No glue, but pretty sure you need some glue. Next step would be to install the tail wheel. Ignore the servo parts because the servos come pre-installed. Connect the ailerons, connect the push rods. I don't need to do that because the servos come pre-installed. Install the motor, but I already have a motor. Put the prop on, put the spinner on, connect all the electronics. So basically the plane is assembled at this point. I am going to go ahead and install the tail wheel, install my receiver. I'm going to be using a Free Sky 4-channel receiver with the Y harness. It's a really small receiver, and I'm going to be powering this with the recommended battery, which is the 1000 milliamp 3-cell LiPo. I chose the Zippies. I like these a lot. I will have to change the lead on all these Zippies because it uses this small connector. I'll be using standard XT60s, well, standard by Hobby King standards. But as you can see, the assembly goes pretty fast, at least the plug and fly version. I don't have to install the servos. They already come pre-installed. This tab is a nifty feature. You remove that, and there are the servos. Oh, and I'll have to connect the push rods, which haven't been connected, but that's easy. So in conclusion, the Durafly Hyperbipe, it comes together really easily. Everything fits really well, really tight tolerances everywhere. There isn't much to it. The instructions are very clear. They're in full color, so there's no really way of messing up. Comes together really quickly. It probably took me longer to unpack everything than to assemble it. Basically put on the wings, glue the tail section, the tail feathers, put the landing gear, put the prop, and that's it. It's ready to go. So, pluses. It's really easy to assemble. The box is really nice. Everything comes really nice packaged. There's no risk of any damage really. Now some minuses. This spinner is made out of foam, and I don't know about its durability. I would have preferred a plastic spinner. It's a little complicated to pull to assemble, to put together, to put it on the plane. So I might have to look into different options for a spinner, or not even use a spinner at all. It's just there for looks, really. But that's the only downside. If you're thinking about getting a nice acrobatic 3D plane from Hobby King, this is the way to go. It comes together really easily. Like I said, this is just a little side note on the issue of the spinner. Now, you basically put this plastic part on with the prop, and then you are supposed to screw these on there. But if you can see, let me see if I can zoom in. Those screws don't really go all the way through. Let's see, without removing the screw. Yeah, so that's... Come on, focus. that's the screw. And it doesn't have enough clearance to, screw into those little holes in there. So that is my only complaint so far. I've tried screwing those screws in a little deeper, but you can't, and they don't really go in there. So I might have to use longer screws or not use a spinner at all. So let's see how that goes. So this is what I ended up doing with the spinner. I removed the plastic part from the spinner itself. And as you can see, let me see if I can do that with one hand. If you put this screw in, give me 1 second. Yeah, the screw is in right now, but it can't reach. Focus on that. It doesn't reach enough to go into this hole on the back plate of the spinner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this part off just by a little bit so that the screw can reach in. Alright, so I've cut the tops of those screw holders, and now the screw can actually penetrate those holes in there. So I'm going to glue this back on the spinner. Let's see how that goes. Alright, that seemed to do the trick. The spinner has been screwed on. It works. So that would be my tip. Cut that piece off the inner part of the spinner, the plastic part, so that the screws can actually go into the back plate of the spinner. Another thing that I noticed is that the connector that comes with the ESC is an HT60. Well, the batteries that I bought are these are 1000 milliamp 3-cell zippies to 25C discharge. They all come with this other connector. I forget the name of it. It's a JST connector. It says it right there. So I have two options. I can either change this plug to match this, get a female JST, or I can solder XT60 connectors on all my batteries. Now I've got 6 of these new batteries. So what I've come up with is I'm going to create this little adapter. So it's a male HT60 and a female JST. I'm going to solder these. The soldering iron is warming up right now. And I'll make that little connector. This should add just a couple of grams to the overall build. There you have it, my homemade HT60 to JST connector that would fit my zippy batteries. Now, have this in mind when you order the kit. No, not the kit, because with the kit you can choose your own ESC. But with the batteries, make sure they use HT60 connectors, otherwise you're going to have to solder the right connectors or make your own adapter like I did. I'm pretty sure they sell these adapters too. You could probably place an order for that on the Hopking website.